Imagine falling in love with someone you've never seen, never spoken to, and never even met. This is the story of Lily and Jack, two strangers brought together by a mysterious handwritten letter hidden inside an old book. Their connection grew stronger with every letter they exchanged, but when the day finally came to meet, everything went terribly wrong. Was their love story destined to end before it even began? Or would fate bring them back together? Let's find out. Have you ever met someone without ever seeing their face? Lily never believed that love could begin with words alone. To her, love only existed in novels and movies because, in real life, it usually ended with heartbreak. At 26 years old, Lily lived alone in a quiet apartment in London. She worked as a graphic designer, spent her weekdays buried in deadlines, and her evenings with a warm cup of coffee and a good book. From the outside, her life looked peaceful, but deep inside she carried the pain of a relationship that had ended a year ago. Since then, she had stopped believing that happy endings were meant for people like her. One rainy Saturday afternoon, Lily decided to wander through the streets of London. As the rain gently fell, she noticed a small old bookstore hidden between two cafes. She had never seen it before. Something about the place felt inviting, so she stepped inside. The wooden floor creaked beneath her feet, shelves filled with old books stretched from wall to wall, and the comforting smell of paper and coffee filled the air. An elderly man behind the counter smiled warmly and said, "Take your time. Every book here has a story waiting to be discovered." Lily slowly walked through the narrow aisles until an old blue novel caught her attention. The cover looked worn, as if countless people had held it over the years. Curious, she picked it up and gently opened the first page. Suddenly, a folded piece of paper slipped out and landed on the floor. Thinking it was just an old receipt, she bent down to pick it up. But when she unfolded it, she realized it was a handwritten letter. The letter read, "If you're reading this, I hope life has been kinder to you than it has been to me. I don't know who you are, and maybe we'll never meet. But today, I needed someone to listen. I've learned that loneliness doesn't always come from being alone. Sometimes it comes from being surrounded by people who never truly understand you. If you decide to write back, leave your letter inside this same book. Maybe fate will do the rest." There was no signature, no address, no clue about who had written it. Lily read the letter again, then once more. Every sentence felt strangely familiar, as though someone had somehow described the feelings she had been hiding for the past year. She bought the book without hesitation and carried it home, unable to stop thinking about the mysterious stranger. That evening, she sat beside her window, listening to the sound of rain tapping against the glass. The stranger's words kept replaying in her mind. Finally, she took out a blank sheet of paper and began to write. "To the stranger who left this letter, I don't know your name, but I want you to know that someone found your words today. They reminded me that even in a city full of millions of people, two lonely hearts can somehow understand each other. Thank you for making me feel a little less alone." The next weekend, Lily returned to the bookstore. She quietly placed her reply inside the same blue novel, returned it to the shelf exactly where she had found it, smiled to herself, and whispered, "No one will ever answer." Believing it was only a small act of kindness that would never go any further, she walked out of the store and disappeared into the rainy streets. What Lily didn't know was that only a few minutes later, a young architect named Jack walked into the bookstore, reached for the very same blue novel, opened it, and found her letter waiting inside. Jack stood silently in the middle of the bookstore, staring at the letter in his hands. For nearly 6 months, he had been leaving handwritten letters inside the old blue novel, never expecting anyone to reply. He had almost given up hope, believing that the book would simply collect dust until someone eventually bought it. Yet here he was, holding a letter written by a complete stranger. A smile slowly appeared on his face as he began reading Lily's words. There was something honest about the way she expressed herself. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. every sentence felt real, as if she were speaking directly from her heart. For the first time in a very long while, Jack didn't feel alone. Instead of taking the letter home, he walked to a nearby cafe, ordered a cup of coffee, and spent the next hour writing his reply. To the stranger who answered my letter, I honestly believed no one would ever find it. Thank you for proving me wrong. My name doesn't matter yet, and neither does yours. Maybe it's better if we remain strangers for a little longer. Sometimes people reveal their true selves only when no one knows who they are. He folded the letter carefully and placed it back inside the blue novel before leaving the bookstore. The following Saturday, Lily returned with a mixture of excitement and doubt. She kept telling herself not to expect anything. Maybe the letter would still be there, untouched. Maybe the stranger had changed their mind. With trembling hands, she opened the book. A different envelope slipped into her hands. For a brief moment, she simply stared at it. Someone had written back. She couldn't stop smiling. Without waiting another second, she hurried home and began reading every single word. By the time she reached the final sentence, she realized she was smiling for the first time in months. From that day on, a new routine quietly became part of their lives. Every Saturday morning, one of them would leave a letter inside the old blue novel. Every Saturday afternoon, the other would find it. Week after week, month after month, the letters became longer. They shared stories about their childhoods, favorite books, dreams they had never told anyone, and places they hoped to visit one day. They talked about rainy afternoons, Christmas memories, embarrassing moments, and the little things that made life beautiful. There was only one rule: no names, no photographs, no phone numbers, no social media, no personal details that could reveal who they really were. They wanted their friendship to grow without appearances, money, or status influencing how they felt. One evening, Lily wrote, "If you could wake up anywhere in the world tomorrow morning, where would it be?" A week later, Jack replied, "A small cabin beside a quiet lake where the only sound is the wind moving through the trees." And you? Lily smiled before writing her answer. "I would choose a little house by the ocean. I'd sit on the porch every evening with a book in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other." As the months passed, they began looking forward to Saturdays more than any other day of the week. The letters slowly became something neither of them could live without. One rainy evening, Jack confessed something he had never admitted to anyone. "I was engaged once. 2 months before the wedding, she left without saying goodbye. Since then, I convinced myself that trusting people only leads to heartbreak." When Lily read those words, tears filled her eyes. She finally understood why his first letter had sounded so lonely. That same night, she wrote back with a confession of her own. "I know exactly how you feel. The person I loved disappeared from my life a year ago. For a long time, I blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I never deserved to be loved. But your letters have reminded me that not every goodbye is the end of the story." Jack read her words over and over again. Without realizing it, two strangers living in the same city had become the most important part of each other's lives. Neither of them had ever seen the other's face. Yet somehow, they understood each other better than anyone else ever had. One Saturday, Jack placed a small pressed white flower inside his letter. Beneath it, he wrote just one sentence: "Some people spend years searching for someone who truly understands them. I think I found that person inside an old blue book." When Lily read those words, her heart skipped a beat. For the first time, she wondered if what they shared was no longer just friendship. Maybe it was becoming something much deeper. After reading Jack's letter, Lily couldn't stop thinking about him. Every word he had written echoed in her mind long after she folded the paper and placed it safely inside her drawer. She had never seen his face, never heard his voice, yet somehow He had become the first person she wanted to tell about every good day and every bad one. Their letters continued for another 2 months. One Saturday, Jack wrote something different. "I've been thinking about this for weeks. Maybe it's time we finally meet, not because I want to know what you look like, but because I already know the person behind the words. If you feel the same, meet me next Saturday at 4 o'clock in the little cafe across from the bookstore. I'll be carrying the blue novel." Lily read the letter 3 times. Her heart raced. She smiled, laughed, and even cried a little. She had imagined this moment so many times that it almost didn't feel real. That entire week, she couldn't focus on work. She kept wondering what Jack looked like. Was he tall? Did he smile often? Would he recognize her immediately? More importantly, what if the magic disappeared the moment they met? Saturday finally arrived. Lily chose a simple blue dress, the same color as the old novel that had brought them together. She reached the cafe almost 30 minutes early and found a seat near the window. Every time someone walked through the door, her heart skipped a beat. 4 o'clock came, then 4:15, then 4:30. Jack never arrived. She waited for almost 2 hours. As the sun slowly disappeared behind the buildings, Lily quietly left the cafe with tears in her eyes. The following weekend, she rushed back to the bookstore. The blue novel was still there, no letter. She returned again the next Saturday. Nothing. Weeks turned into months. Still nothing. Lily eventually convinced herself that Jack had changed his mind. Maybe he had found someone else. Maybe he had decided that their story belonged only in letters. It broke her heart, but she forced herself to move on. Nearly a year later, while walking home from work, Lily noticed a large banner outside a local art gallery. It read, "Finding Hope, a collection by Jack Carter." Something about the name made her stop. She couldn't explain why. Curious, she walked inside. The gallery was filled with beautiful paintings, but one piece immediately caught her attention. It showed an old blue book resting on a wooden table beside 2 handwritten letters. The title beneath the painting read, "For the Stranger Who Changed My Life." Lily stood frozen. At that exact moment, a voice behind her gently said, "I was hoping you'd see this one." She slowly turned around. Standing only a few feet away was a man with kind eyes and a warm smile. He was holding the very same blue novel. "Jack," she whispered. He nodded. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Jack smiled and said, "I'm sorry I never came to the cafe." He explained that on the morning they were supposed to meet, he had been involved in a serious car accident. He spent months in the hospital recovering from multiple injuries. His family had packed away all of his belongings, including the letters. By the time he was well enough to return to the bookstore, it had permanently closed. "I searched for you everywhere," Jack said softly. "I didn't know your name. I didn't know what you looked like. All I had were your letters." Lily felt tears roll down her cheeks. "So, you never stopped looking?" Jack shook his head. "Never. Giving up would have meant losing the greatest person I had ever met." He reached into the blue novel and carefully pulled out a folded envelope. "I've carried this letter with me for almost a year." Lily opened it with trembling hands. Inside, she read the words she had dreamed of hearing. "Dear stranger, I don't know your name yet, but I know your heart. If fate is kind enough to let us meet one day, I hope you'll give me the chance to spend the rest of my life proving that some love stories are worth waiting for." Lily looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "You finally found me," she whispered. Jack smiled. "No, I think fate found both of us." Outside, the rain began to fall, just as it had on the day Lily first walked into the old bookstore. This time, they didn't need letters. They didn't need hidden messages inside old books. They simply walked out of the gallery together, side by side, ready to begin the chapter they had unknowingly been writing all along. Because sometimes, the greatest love stories don't begin with a first kiss. They begin with a single letter, a little hope, and the courage to believe that even complete strangers can become the love of your life.